What up? What up? What up? Good morning. Welcome to the scorecard, the boxing scorecard, where I ask people to bring your scorecard and an explanation, not just simply your opinion. I am your host, Cedric Benn, here every Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. Canadian Eastern Time. If you can't catch the show live, you can catch us in anywhere you can listen to podcasts. You can catch the show if you don't catch it live. All right. Make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend. This weekend we had a welterweight matchup, a WBO International Welterweight Championship bout between Vergil Ortiz Jr., who is only 24 years old and one of the up and coming stars at the welterweight division. He's right at that level where he's gonna. Why he's already star in his hometown of Texas, but as far as the bigger scene and taking on the biggest fights, he is right on that level. He last night he took on the challenger from the UK, Mr. Michael Mackinson, who has a record of 22 wins with only two knockouts. So this guy is a real boxer. Um, Much respect to him, but I've never seen he's only has an 8% knockout ratio. Good morning, Chris Peters. What up? What up? I'm just gonna get through my little thing here. Then I'm gonna get to your comments. All right, Chris. Thank you for joining in. So, yeah, Michael Mackinson from the UK. Um, he only has two knockouts, and one of the knockouts wasn't even a knockout. It was because his opponent had a torn bicep. So this guy literally has how many fights? 22 fights with only one knockout. Like he really relies on his boxing skills. And last night was his only loss, so obviously he's doing good for his career without power. And must be excellent. Last time was my first time actually studying him, like watching him closely. It's hard to when you're watching someone for the first time and they're going up against one of the best in the division. It's hard to use that as an evaluation, um, but anyway, yeah. Mr. Ortiz, you can get the slides up now. Mr. Vergil Ortiz, from the USA, from Texas. He comes in with a record of 19 wins with 19 knockouts. So similar to what I say about Mr. Beterbiev at the light heavyweight division. If you, according to the numbers, if you fight Vergil Ortiz Jr., there is a 100% chance you're getting knocked out. 100% chance you're getting knocked out. And Ortiz Jr. already has some good wins on his record. Um, he beat Maurice Hooker a couple of fights ago, like stopped him cleanly. He had a tough fight with Kavaliaskis, who dropped Terrence Crawford when they fought. Crawford stopped him, but he still dropped him. And just in general, Vergil Ortiz Jr. is a come forward boxer, one of the few boxers from this generation who consistently keeps his hands up, both hands up. Of course, sometimes he'll kind of keep that lead hand down just a little bit, just to kind of draw you in. But it seems 90% of the fighters these days try to adapt that Mayweather style. You gotta really perfect that to do it like that. So yeah, there's really no reason to of course we scored the fight. It stopped. The results from the fight was a ninth round stoppage for Vergil Ortiz Jr. I thought it would come a lot earlier, like the fourth round. What up, David Chase? I see your comment there. Give me 1 second to go through my scorecard, then I'll get to the comments. What I was expecting, because Mr. Mackinson only has two fights. People calling me right now. Because Mr. Mackinson only has two knockouts out of all of his fights. I figured but he was still undefeated. I figured he'd be able to box his way for a few rounds, but because Vergil Ortiz is an aggressive fighter and he didn't have to worry about any punch resistance or power, obviously, from his opponent. He'd be able to come forward even faster than he normally does. So I was expecting a fourth round stoppage for Mr. Ortiz, but Mr. Mackinson showed why he was undefeated, why he was undefeated even though he doesn't have power, because he was boxing very good, at least for the first 2 rounds. I gave him, let's go through the scorecard real quick. I gave Mac actually the first 2 rounds. My quick notes: Mac was busier, landed more, looked like Ortiz. This is for the first round. Looked like Ortiz was sizing him up as and as the underdog, you have to fight like the way that Mackinson was fighting. Let's see if he can keep this up, is what I wrote for this first round. Second round, I also gave to Mackinson. Mac good, but slowing down already. Only 2 knockouts, no power. So midway through the second round, you could already see that Ortiz was already extending or putting extra pressure, knowing that he didn't have to worry about anything coming back at him. Round three, from round 3 on, I gave to Ortiz. But this is the thing: even though I gave all the rounds to Ortiz, I put this picture up specifically with Boots Ennis, because this would be an interesting matchup right there. Ortiz versus Boots Ennis. Let me know in the comments. I'll get to those in 1 second. I gave Ortiz round 3, and the rest of the fight, Ortiz starting to punish him. Nothing to worry about with no power. Round 4, Ortiz clearly in charge. Mac's coaches are actually giving him. Yeah, that's the other thing too. I said Mac's coaches are actually giving him too much instructions. They told him like 10 different things. Here's one thing: when you're in a corner, when I'm coaching boxers, not just me, but in general, you only have 1 minute. You only have 60 seconds. The boxer, they're trying to catch their breath. You can't be like, all right, step to the side, do this, do that. When he does this, da, da, da. You can't give 15 different instructions as they're trying to catch their breath and drink water. When your boxer comes back to the corner, let them give them 5 to 10 seconds to catch their breath first. Then you give them the water. Then you give the instructions. And it's only 2 or 3 basic instructions. There's no way they're going to make 15 different adjustments in that 60 seconds. All you need is 2 or 3 specific fundamental things to change, if there's anything to change, things that you've worked on, not just anything new. All right, that was my thing about Mac's coaches. Round 5, Mac doing good things, but he doesn't have the respectable power to keep Ortiz off of him. This is what I mean. This is how Mackinson was able to last at least to the 9th round, because the way he was boxing, as I got the highlights up here, the way that he was boxing, he was actually doing good things from his southpaw position. Like everything that you're supposed to, he was trying to keep his outside foot to the outside of Ortiz, throwing a straight left, right hook, spinning to the side. Like he was doing all the things that you're supposed to do against a pressure fighter like Ortiz. It's just that he didn't have respectable power for Ortiz to make Ortiz slow down. So that pressure was just slowly getting to him, and eventually, but he lasted the 9th round. That's again, that just shows Mac's boxing skills, because Ortiz, again, he 19 wins, 19 stoppages. This guy doesn't have any power, and he still almost lasted the fight with him 3/4 of the fight. Round 6, Mac actually did better in survival mode, but I still gave it to Ortiz. Mac did good in that 6th round, if you guys remember that. Round 7, again, Mac is actually boxing good. If he had power, this would be a problem for Ortiz. Ortiz's coach are mad. I'm assuming they thought he would get him out here by now. Yeah, exactly. See, in round 7, my notes for round 7, Ortiz's coaches in the corner, they were actually mad at him for letting Mac stay into the fight. They were actually got mad at him for a bit, telling him, I couldn't hear clearly because there was like 2-3 people talking at the same time. But the one main guy, you could just see it in his facial expressions. He was like, what are you doing? Like, cut off the ring. Don't just stand there and let him catch you, da-da-da. So, like I said, Mac was doing good. He just didn't have the power to keep him off. Round 8, he dropped him. Oh, yeah, round 8 is when Ortiz dropped Mac with a body shot. He didn't see it coming. It wasn't hard, but Mac didn't brace for it. And that's for anything. Like, if anybody out there, if you've played sports, everyone's been winded, right, by accident. But the thing is why I tell people, like, if I tell you right now I'm gonna punch you in your stomach as hard as I can, before you're gonna stand there and brace for it. But like, if you don't see it coming, if you're just looking in another direction and someone just walks up and blasts you in the stomach, those are the ones that take your air out. So my whole point of that, when you're boxing, you have your hands up like this, hands up here, and you don't see that body shot coming down, boom, those are the ones that take all your air out. That's exactly what happened to Mackinson, because it didn't look like Ortiz threw the punch that hard or even sat down. It's just the way that just because he threw it so fast and not expected, Mac didn't see it coming. And in round 9, which I probably would have stopped it in the 8th round. You guys know me. I'm safety first. Um, I wouldn't even let Mac come out for that 9th round. There's no way he was going to win the fight. Ortiz was just punishing him more. And the only reason why they let him out for that 9th round was for his pride. And in sport like fighting, MMA, fighters have a lot of pride. You got to save them for the next day and the rest of their life, not just the sport. So, coaches have to remember this. This is why you got to remember you have to have a coach that is more concerned with your life than your career, because a coach that's more concerned with your career and your legacy is going to let you take those extra punches for the crowd, because it's exciting for the crowd, and there's still a puncher's chance that you might come back. Anyways, that was my little rant about safety first. So what is next? What is next for Mr. Ortiz? Real quick, too, I'm going to get to not yet. You can keep this one going right here. Keep these slides going. I'm going to talk about the Blair Cobb and Maurice Hooker fight in a second, but you can keep these slides on here. I'm going to get to the comments right now. What up, what up, what up? Chris Peters going down to the bottom. Tito would be Tito. I'm assuming you're talking about Ortiz. Tito would be best at welterweight, in my opinion. We know Tito was knocked down on several occasions as a welter, but he was able to get back up and stop these opponents as well. Have trouble with guys like he'd have trouble with guys like Spence. Yeah, of course. You find the best. The Spence. You mean Spence versus Ortiz Jr.? Of course, that would be crazy. Because Spence has a relentless jab. Spence also has relentless body attack. And Ortiz doesn't really, you don't really see him fighting backwards a lot. So that definitely would be interesting. Chris Peters also says Boots and Crawford, no doubt, maybe even young Ortiz, but I think he'd find a way to win like he's done in the past. Yeah, interesting. I mean, like I said, man, Boots, my thing about Boots and he definitely 100% passes the eye test, right? He definitely passes the eye test. And he has stepped up in competition and looks good so far. Let him keep stepping up in competition first before we just crown him at the same level as Crawford and Spence. Because the one thing I remind people, the way as good as Boots Ennis is looking right now in his fights, you guys have to remember 5 years ago, Crawford and Spence were looking just as good when they were fighting that caliber of opponents back then. Now they've moved on. When you're fighting the best of the best in the world, those are all going to be close fights. Even if you're winning, they're still going to be close, somewhat close. So people forget the highlights. Again, the way that Boots is looking right now is the way that Crawford and Spence were looking when they were fighting those caliber of fighters. That's why they're talking about at their level right now. Moving on, Mr. David Chase, good morning. Hopefully one of the sanctioning bodies makes Vergil a mandatory or gives him a final eliminator. GB doesn't have anything to keep him busy with in the meantime. Who's GB? GB. But yeah, Vergil Ortiz, a mandatory for who? For Crawford or Spence? I mean, I guess so. I mean, he's 19-0 right now. He has a WBO belt. How about a bigger name fight, like someone that with a named opponent? Like I said, Mac was good, undefeated, only 2 knockouts. Let's see him against someone that can, that he would have to really be careful against, which he has before. Like I said, he beat Maurice Hooker a couple of fights ago, like convincingly. He also stopped Gil Vasquez in his last match, who had a tough one with Terrence Crawford. So, Ortiz, he's been tested already. But let's see him keep moving on up. He's 19-0 right now. A couple more fights. What else do you say here about Tito? I think Crawford and Spence have skill and technique to outbox Tito. Yep. OLDH outboxed Tito and then ran away. Last few rounds, he laid the blueprint. Tito, blah 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 blah. Crawford and Spence have the skill and technique. I agree with that part. I'm just confused with the abbreviations. Who's OLDH? But definitely Crawford and Spence. Again, that's what I was just mentioning. They definitely have the skills to keep up with him. Not to keep up with him, but it's a question if Ortiz's pressure would be able to, if he'd be able to maintain that against Crawford and Spence with their accurate counterpunching skills. Mr. Tyler Lee, what up? What up? Good stoppage. Always seems like he'd get him eventually. Mackinson did okay overall too. Not the best to watch as he was never going to win, but he didn't roll over easily. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. I was expecting a 4th round stoppage for Ortiz, but Mackinson lasted to the 9th round because of his skills. And like I said, the things that he was doing were good. He just didn't have enough respectable power to keep Ortiz off of him. What else you got to say, Tyler? He'll probably get more fights. You can see why. You can see why domestic level British fighters have never really fancied fighting him. He's good at that level, just not world level. Yeah, I could definitely see that. Like I said, with his skills, he could beat almost anyone out there, just not knock him out. Zev was in here earlier posting his thoughts at 9:15. I don't think Cedric sees all those early opinions. Zev, did I miss your opinion down there? My bad. Chris was the first one. Oscar De La Hoya. Yeah, that was going to be my guess. Yes. Oscar De La Hoya, one of the greats, one of the Hall of Famers, one of the greatest fighters of all time, especially at that welterweight division. Fought all the best at his in his era. So let me go back to what you said about him. Oscar De La Hoya outboxed Tito and then ran away the last few rounds. He laid the blueprint. Yes. You know what? That fight too, with Oscar De La Hoya and Tito Trinidad, it's a little bit of De La Hoya's corner's fault too, because in between rounds they were telling him that he's winning the fight and he can just coast it now. They're the ones that told him to relax and to move around. So I always tell my boxers, man, like, I mean, everyone's heard to say, never leave it in the hands of the judges. Of course, every boxer wishes and hopes that all their fights can end in a knockout. But in a close fight, you have to do your best to make it not close and just land a little bit more. Sometimes when a boxer will come back to the corner. Okay, I'll check it. A boxer will come back to the corner and say to me, "Hey, do you think I won that round?" And I'll look at them and I'll say, "Listen, I'm not the judge. It doesn't matter. Even if I think you won the round, I'm not the person that's deciding if you're winning or if you're going to win or lose. So it doesn't matter what I think. You just have to make it more clear." So as a coach, even if you think your fighter is winning or doing well, you shouldn't just say, like, you shouldn't just tell them that they can coast it, especially in a 12-round fight when it's at the championship level. Even if you believe your fighter is clearly winning, you should tell them not to take it off the gas pedal, but maybe put it in cruise control, but definitely not take your foot off the gas pedal. You want to make it clear, like unanimous. So yeah. So next up for Vergil Ortiz, I don't know, man. That's there's a lot of options for him. All right. That was I'll come back to this. If there's any more questions about this fight, we'll come back to it now. I want to touch on briefly is the co-main event, or it wasn't the co-main event, the fight right before that. You could put the other slides up when you get a chance to, Eric. It was Blair the Flair Cobb versus Mr. Maurice Hooker. This was actually a step-up fight for Blair Cobb. Those of you that know Mr. Blair Cobb, he's bringing the wrestling vibe into boxing. In all of his interviews, he's taking up the Stone Cold Steve Austin persona with the leather cut off sleeve jacket, wearing it to the ring, and the way he talks on the microphone, he's very animated, calling out everybody, just like it's like old school wrestling. And you know what? He fights that way too. That's why I always say, man, I don't mind like the guys that talk trash as long as you fight the way that you talk. I respect that. And he fights the way he talks, right? A lot of guys, do a lot of talking in the press conference, and then they get caught in the fight, and all of a sudden it's a different story. But he's still bringing it. Blair Cobb, his last match was against Alex Rocha, which he lost. He got stopped. And then this fight against Maurice Hooker was another tough fight. I actually think Maurice Hooker is a better fighter than Alex Rocha. What do you guys think in the comments? Oh, not Ortiz pick in there. Whatchamacallit? What do you guys think in the comments about the Blair Cobb and Maurice Hooker fight? Yeah, this picture right here displays it all. He's talking the whole time. The whole press conference, he's talking the whole time. Maurice Hooker's just playing it cool, just chilling, playing it cool. And when it came out to fight, and there's a few things, a few X factors that that might be involved in Maurice Hooker's life that was the result in his performance last night. The result of the fight wasn't a loss for Maurice Hooker, a big win for Blair the Flair Cobb, and this was also in I believe they said this was in Maurice Hooker's hometown of Texas too. I know he had a few outside things going on. Someone close to him passed away. I don't know if it was a family member or a business partner. He had his RIP, someone on his shorts, so rest in peace to that person. Maybe that was heavy on his mind. But he did not look like the same Maurice Hooker that we've seen in the past. Definitely not. Coming out in the first round, I didn't score this one. I didn't score this one. I was just relaxing watching it. But he got dropped. He looked like, just in general, he just looked like he was hesitating for some reason. Blair the Flair was moving, doing a lot of good lateral movement, popping a few good straight punches. He was never stationary, Blair Cobb. He was never stationary. He was always moving around. Maurice Hooker, he owned the center of the ring. Like what he did was just stay in the center and just pivot around to where Cobb was going and just popping his jab out there. Maurice was throwing his jab out there, but nowhere near enough. Like it was a very strange performance. Again, I don't know what's going on in his outside what was going on during training camp. I know he came in and was 3 pounds overweight. 3 pounds. Like usually, sometimes guys miss weight by, just a quarter of a pound or just 1 pound at the most. But you come in 3 pounds overweight, I don't know, you have a couple of months or, at least weeks. No, they knew about this fight for at least 2 months. And, you coming in overweight. I don't know. That shows a lack of focus in training camp, or something. Sports Culture Gaming, what up? He is asking, when does Teofimo fight next? Teofimo is fighting, I believe, next week, possibly. I believe he is fighting next week. I will double check that. I'll try to double check that as I'm here now. But going back to this fight here. So what do you guys? What is next for Blair the Flair Cobb? This is also at I believe this is at 147, right? Yes, it was, because he's quick to call out all the top guys. So this was a big win for Blair Cobb to get back into the win column. Thank you, Vinny Ali. Teofimo Lopez is fighting August 13th. Sports Gaming, Culture Gaming. I'm not sure if it's your first time in here, but thank you for joining. What is your comments about last night's fights? About right now, I'm talking about Blair Cobb and Maurice Hooker. How this was an upset win for Blair Cobb, and much respect to him too, because he didn't. This most guys, after they take a tough loss like that, you usually fight someone either at the same level or a little bit lower, to get your confidence back up before you get back to that level. Blair Cobb, he had a very tough loss in his last match against Alex Rocha. And he took this fight against Maurice Hooker. I actually think this was a step-up fight. Like, I think Maurice Hooker is way better. Maybe not way better, but I think he's a better fighter than Alex Rocha. So that's why I was expecting Maurice Hooker to win this one. But I was wrong. There were a lot of fights last night. Oh yes, Conlon. I missed that one. Someone fill me in about Mick Conlon, because his last match, when he got stopped, that last match when he got stopped was a close one. He got stopped badly. It was a bad stoppage, but yeah. I was kind of concerned about how he would come back from that one, even though he was winning. I can't remember my scorecard for that one, but it was close. I remember watching that one. Um, so someone fill me in what was how did Condon look in his fight last night? If you look at Blair the Flair knock down his opponent here. What else we got? What else we got? What is next for Maurice Hooker? That's the big question. I don't know, man. Like again, boxing is not a sport where you could be half in and half out. You know, in other sports, when if you're a half in and half out, for example, baseball or something like that, you could turn into a what do you call it, designated hitter. All you have is one job. Just go and hit a couple of times and go sit your ass back on the bench. You don't have to worry about nothing else, right? Sport like boxing, there's no half stepping. You can't be half in and half out. We all, there's I guess keeping your focus during training is a skill, because everybody has something going on in their outside life. There's never, there's not a fighter, boxer, or MMA fighter that, probably has absolutely zero stress going on in their life during their training camp. Everyone has something going on during their training camp. So I think mentally it takes a skill to be able to maintain your focus. And honestly, I honestly believe it's a skill to a mental skill that certain athletes have. I said boxers and MMA fighters, but not just athletes in general at the highest level. Whether you're a high level amateur or a high level professional athlete in whatever sport, it takes a lot of mental focus, and it's a skill to be able to block out any outside stresses that you have, and to focus on the task at hand. Um, my whole point of bringing that up is just that I think that what was going on in Maurice Hooker's life. The reason why he didn't look as comfortable as he did last night in his match. Like I said, he had RIP to someone on his shorts, and he came in 3 pounds overweight. Even looking at his body, he didn't really look like ripped like he usually does. So obviously he didn't have the best training camp. He had one of the best coaches and best boxers in his corner, in Bomac and Terrence Crawford. Bomac is Terrence Crawford's coach. But it just goes to show you that, you could have the best coaches and the best help, all the best help in the world. But when you're inside that boxing ring, you're in there by yourself, right? You're in there by yourself, one-on-one, and you're accountable for yourself. So that's if you got outside stuff going on, maybe see a sports psychologist. That's the new thing in this past couple of years. Maybe see a sports psychologist just to help with the mental side of your competitions. Good morning, Mr. Nick Leishman. Your comment is Vergil made weight and went 9, so I think he can hang around 147 for a year. I wish the WBC would order Thurman versus Ortiz Jr. If Keith don't want that, which I'm sure he doesn't, then let's get Avanesian fight or Ugas. Yes. Ortiz versus Thurman. Everyone's calling out Thurman these days. Danny Garcia wants Thurman. Well, I guess Ortiz is not calling him out, but that definitely would be a very interesting fight. A crossroads fight for both fighters. Crossroads fight for Ortiz. If Ortiz beats Thurman and looks the way he looks against all of his other fights that he stopped, Ortiz's name should be right up there on that pound for pound list, which is subjective. It's everyone's own opinion. There's not a specific description on how to get on anyone's pound for pound list. But as far as one of the talking about the top fighters in all of boxing, he let me not jump the gun. He wouldn't be up there, but he definitely would be on his way or close to breaking in that top 10 pound for pound list. You asked about Avanesian fight or Ugas. You know what? Let's get that Avanesian fight next, maybe. Let's get that Avanesian fight next. What is going on with Ugas today? How's his eyes? He had a broken eye socket. Errol Spence broke his eye socket in their last fight. Let him heal first. Make sure he's good. Let him rest up a little bit. Maybe give him a tune up. Get his confidence back up, and then and go from there. So yeah. Vergil Ortiz, he's looking, and like I said, the one thing that I do appreciate about Vergil Ortiz, um, one of the few boxers from this generation that actually keeps his hands up consistently. He does move around, of course, with that, and drops that lead hand a little bit, but still, like he only does that for a little bit and then gets his hands right back up and is coming in for the seek and destroy. So shout out to Vergil Ortiz Jr. Another impressive win last night, and there you have it. As I'm talking right now, I'm trying to look up the schedule for next week. I got it in my emails. I should have had it ready. What else you guys want to talk about the fights last night? Where so I guess that was all 147. Would Vergil Ortiz Jr. fight like Blair Cobb? Would that be an option, or no? Not yet. I mean, they're both at that level. I guess Vergil Ortiz not. Vergil Ortiz is looking for something bigger. He's at the same time, he's only 19 wins. You know, he's looking very good. He's still only 19 wins though. So I don't know, maybe a couple more fights. Actually, yeah, but Blair Cobb would be a good fight for both of them, because if Blair Cobb could pull up that upset, that would get his name. Oh my gosh. If you think Blair Cobb talks a lot of trash now, if he beat if he beat like Vergil Ortiz Jr. or any of the guys that people are saying are the next ones up, he'd be talking even a lot more. Schedule. Next, I know in 2 weeks we got Anthony Joshua and Usyk. What are you guys' thoughts about that? Because I'm gonna go with Usyk. You can take the slides back off now, Eric. I'm gonna go with Usyk with the win again. I just don't think that Joshua is going to be able to do it. Just simply Usyk's skills. He just has those skills, man. He just has those skills. I know Anthony Joshua has changed trainers. He's with Robert Garcia now, but I don't think that will make a difference in Usyk. Robert Garcia is gonna have him. I guess the one thing is how much more cardio does Anthony Joshua have, because Robert Garcia is gonna have Anthony Joshua coming forward trying to go for the knockout. You can take that slides out now, Eric. Robert Garcia is gonna have Anthony Joshua coming forward hard, trying to be an aggressive, trying to stop Usyk. He's just gonna try to have him use his size against him. He's not gonna try to outbox him. Anthony Joshua is not gonna outbox him, because here's the thing. Yes, they both won gold medals at the Olympics, but there's levels to this. Anthony Joshua won his gold medal similar to, I was saying, how Deontay Wilder won his gold medal, with pure power. Obviously, you have to have skills at that level, but it's more of the fear, their opponent's fear of their power that helped them. That was the main reason that guided them towards their Olympic gold medals. Or sorry, Joshua won a bronze. Wilder won a bronze. Anthony Joshua won a gold medal. Usyk won his gold medal at the Olympics from pure skills. Even as a big man, there's you guys are familiar, obviously, with Artur Beterbiev, who was one of the champions. Well, him and Usyk fought when they were amateurs, and it's crazy because they both have the exact style that they have right now. And Usyk beat Beterbiev with the same way, he didn't hurt him around like that, just by outboxing him, moving him left to right, lateral movement, and just simply outboxing him. So I think that's what's going to happen with Joshua and Anthony Joshua and Usyk in 2 weeks. I think Usyk's skills are just People were calling me crazy when I said this years ago. I said Usyk is the next Evander Holyfield. The reason why I say this is because they both had the exact same career path. They both won gold medals at the Olympics at the light heavyweight division. They both moved on to their professional careers and cleaned out the cruiserweight division. Clearly cleaned it out. They both moved on to the heavyweight division and have looked good. Usyk's first match at the heavyweight division was a little shaky. It was a little shaky. I forget the dude that he fought, but he didn't look the best in his very first appearance at the heavyweight division. Then he goes and beats Anthony Joshua, again, off of pure boxing skill. So that's what I'm expecting to happen in 2 weeks. I still can't find who is fighting next week. But, of course, I'll be back with the scorecard. Thank you very much for spending your early Sunday morning live with me. Again, if you can't catch the show live, you can catch the podcast on any podcast where you can listen to podcasts. Talkin Fight on YouTube. We are Talkin Fight YouTube channel. Not just my show, but other great boxing shows with different types of boxing content on this channel. One of the best boxing content channel on YouTube. So if you haven't done it yet, make sure you like this video, tell a friend to tell a friend, and there's something else I'm forgetting to say. Anyways, thank you for the guys for taking the time to make your comments in the comment section, and peace. I'll see you guys next week. Oh yeah, hit me up on any on my social media too at Cedric Sports. Any questions or comments, I appreciate that. All right, see you guys next week. Peace.